Joe Greer says, are you seeing a tsunami of foreclosures coming in? That's an interesting question. You guys you guys have any indication, any stories, any kind of insight you could lend to Joe's question? Is a tsunami of foreclosures predicted to come in? Scott, why don't you start us off with that one?
So I don't really see that happening. Not yet. The market's in too strong of a position right now. If the economic impact continues to happen, I see where the hotels were talking about laying off some workers and things. So I do expect some trickle down. But right now, we've been on a run for over 8 years in an up cycle for prices. So most people are going to have equity in their property at this point, and they'll put it on. If they have to, they get into a stressed position, they'll put it on the market, sell it, and walk away with some money. Obviously, there'll be some people that will be underwater, but I don't see it coming. And it's all going to depend on kind of how this tourism play comes back and how the economy starts going. The longer this trickles out, the bigger impact we will have. But we're still in a position where prices are going up and we have restricted inventory, so people can put their home on the market and sell it at a profit right now.
Yeah, that's a very interesting. No, so Dylan, what's the word on the street on the Big Island that you're hearing?
So I always add the context. I agree with Scott. I don't see that coming. And the main reason is this economic turmoil that we're in, or downturn that we're in right now, is very different than the housing bubble crisis that we saw in 2007 and 2008. And the main reason for that was there's been a lot of federal laws put into place to protect the market from what had happened 10 years ago. And in that crisis, where people who shouldn't be buying homes were buying homes that were overpriced and getting themselves overextended in really bad situations. And I use myself as an example. I was, I think 23 or 24 when I bought my first house. I was in college on the GI Bill, didn't have any type of savings. My wife, we weren't married yet. She was a teacher for like 6 months, and we got a mortgage to buy a house. We had no business buying a house. This was like in 2005, but we could because of the way the lending laws were back then. It's much tougher now. So if you bought a house in the last 10 years, you had to be in a much better financial position. And like Scott said, if you bought a house 5 or 6 years ago and you lose your job today, you probably have 15, 20% equity in your house, even if you put very little money down. So you can just put it on the market, sell it, and walk away with some cash. So it's unlikely. We're not in the same type of situation we were 10 years ago during the economic crisis and housing bubble. It's very different.
So we've been talking about this issue, comes up practically at every show. Like, are the prices going to go down? And every single, and we've been doing this for almost a couple of months now, I think. I believe so. And the answer has been always no, and not no by our opinions, but no from what the market data is showing us. So folks, I think, and now hopefully this COVID thing is hopefully coming to an end. Seems to me that the answer to this is kind of a resounding no. Things are going to pretty much, there may be a little bit of a slowdown in terms of the price increases, or a little slowdown in terms of market. There may be some pockets like Waikiki, for example, but if this thing looks like it is moving forward. All right, Scott, you were going to say something.
Yeah. So the interesting thing on the history of Oahu, if you look back in the 60s and 70s, Oahu was adding 14,000 new units per year. And a lot of that was Waikiki development. That's where you see there was no regulation, very little. So you have units with no parking in Waikiki, which makes no sense. And then the city and county swung the pendulum the complete opposite direction and made buildings so restrictive that we're building new units but can't even keep up with the local demand, much less the offshore demand. So we always have the supply-demand imbalance, which drives up prices, which also means there's not a glut of supply on the market all the time, which is why we don't see a wave of foreclosures. That's why in the 2008 bubble, when things busted, we only dropped 11% from top to bottom, was because we didn't have a glut of supply.
Right.